Alright, so this is my uh, version of the uh, game that I'm making, but without any of like the real story bits like we had with this part. This is going to be covering mostly just the gameplay and like level designing aspects of it. So the game starts, and it opens up to the doors open to a scientific lab, and it very much looks very pristine, very clean, and it's very similar to like Aperture Science. It starts off with having some dialogue conversation with the man on the intercom, very similar to Fallout 4 or Mass Effect. The door opens and it leads to stairs that lead to another room. The stairs sort of pull out of the wall in very similar to how this is set up. These are stationary, I believe, but the lab stairs would open up and like come out of the wall. It opens up to a raging fire that needs to be extinguished. So this is just like almost the fire is behind a glass panel. So the player himself is actually pretty safe, and you control it with using the fire hose. The next room opens up to a large balance scale. It's very similar to this, only these buckets would be scaled up to the size of dumpsters. That's just kind of how big it would be. And the more weights will be dropped in, and the player has to try and keep up with it and keep it level for 10 seconds. In the next room, the door opens and you're shown two paths. The first path is rather easy, very straight and narrow, with kind of a meh sort of reward. And the second one is fraught with danger and obstacles, and it's really just not as much of a cakewalk, but it has a much better reward. So you can choose whichever option. And you can't like go through this one and then be able to get to the rewards in B. Like you can't go through A and get B's rewards because it's cut off. They're cut off from each other. In the next room, there's another set of dialogue options with the man over the intercom, and then the next room opens up and you see a man at a table drinking himself silly. So he's like drinking himself under the table. And another conversation takes place between the two, or you can just pass by it and not talk to him at all. It's completely up to you. In the next room, the player sees two bulletin boards with some files pinned to each. And so they would grab the files, click the files, pick them up, move them to whichever bulletin board they think they would fit better at. So these would be documents, essentially. Next, the player enters the next room, and another conversation with the man over the intercom occurs. This would be this conversation, the surveillance conversation. The player enters the next room and meets three people arguing, and the player needs to defuse the situation. In the next room, the team needs to scale a wall as a team. Very similar to Warface, where you can basically pin yourself up against a wall and be the base of the boost. They can go up. The ally can go up, and then they help you up. So essentially, and this is kind of what it would look like. See, they help each other out in this situation. And it slowly starts to get down to the last guy. This guy ends up doing a very big running jump. These guys end up grabbing him because they reach down really low. They got him up. Next, in the next room, the team finds 4 elevators with each person's name on it, except for the player. And so they go into their marked rooms, very similar to how this is kind of set up. Sorry, let me zoom in. So this is an elevator shaft, elevator shaft, elevator shaft, elevator shaft. And that's how it's set up like that. And then, as the elevator rises, the intercom chimes in again, and more story events happen, but that's essentially the end of the gameplay and level design aspect.